Tell them we ain't taking no days off. Days off, taking no days off. Boys think I'm long gone way out. Days off, no days off. You can tell them we ain't taking no days off.
Well, welcome back to the Cornhole Journey. It's Rob Ice Price here with you with my partner in crime, Rick Fire Ellis. How we doing, Rick?
Fabulous. Fuego. What's my name today?
Fuego. Well, you're going to see the graphic in just a second. I didn't tell you we have lower thirds jokes, so they could be bad jokes. So joining us on the podcast.
All your jokes are bad.
We've been so excited about this. We have
It's been
the
exciting.
king and
Yeah,
queen
for
of
sure.
TCL.
Yeah.
The guy who founded TCL.
I can't believe it.
Chad Jacobson and his
Unbelievable.
director of operations, Laura Costilla. So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Yeah, welcome.
Hello.
Thank y'all.
Rick has got a lot of questions. It's an interrogation or an interview. I'm not sure what it is. So
There was like 42 questions I wanted to ask. We had to break it
We're
all
gonna
down.
have some fun.
Yeah.
I love it, man. We got them. We were like going through them all. We're like, these are really good.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
awesome.
He's a good questionnaire, guys. So, Rick, why don't you get us going? You have some good thoughts. We have some topics here on the podcast: origin story, building a brand, growing the ecosystem,
Yep.
leadership structure,
Yep.
identity and uniqueness, culture versus growth.
You have that all up there
Yes,
already?
You can see it, yeah. And then goals and long-term vision. So as we follow along, our viewers can kind of see where we're tracking in our conversations. So
Yeah, but before we get into
Okay.
it,
take it away.
I think a lot of people already know you, Chad, but people who might not be into cornhole but
Yeah.
want to get into cornhole.
Yeah.
Who are you, Chad?
I mean, I'm a sports junkie.
Of course.
I grew up with three brothers. We would play anything and everything. I remember playing, baseball video games before they would keep stats, and I would keep a paper book of the stats just so I could keep my season stats. My older brother and I played one-on-one. I kept all of our stats for that stuff, doing different things, growing up playing anything and everything that we could keep score, doing all that stuff. So love sports and very fortunate that I'm able to do something with sports.
Which is incredible. So you kept all the stats.
Yes.
You hand
Wrote them. Like I would
So you were
in the
wow,
baseball game,
wow.
just like play the video game. Okay, got that, scored it. There, strike. Okay, this pitcher needs to be subbed out. His stats are terrible and all this stuff.
So you were a jockey and a nerd
Hey, absolutely. I love math.
You're
All at
both.
the same time.
at the same time.
Yep, absolutely.
And Laura,
Yes,
how are you?
I'm great.
CFO, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Basically,
Basically,
director of
I guess.
operations.
Director of operations, you mean kind of there.
I keep
So-
everything in line.
I love it.
No.
Yeah, we all know Chad, but you're behind the scenes. You're
I
probably
am.
holding the whole
Try and
league
hold the
up.
fort down. Yeah.
What do you do? And first of all, introduce yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Laura. Chad and I go way back. A lot of people don't know that.
We did not know this.
Actually, we share the same birthday, and
Really?
I'm a year older, but we're in the same grade. We graduated from Southlake together, and I took her out for her 16th birthday, and
It was his 17th birthday.
yep, and it was the worst date she's ever been on in her life. And
So we didn't.
It all worked out.
it eventually, yeah, I had a 25-year sentence. I couldn't
When's your
touch it.
birthday?
July 23rd.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's how we started.
Mm-hmm.
We took a long break from there, and we kind of reconnected. We both kind of moved out to Argyle with our own families. Life happened and all that, and so. But I'm an educator at heart. I spent 20 years teaching high school Spanish and coaching cheerleading, and so
Did you watch the Netflix documentary? Was it awesome?
it was so good.
Right just down the road, Navarro College in Corsicana.
I know, and a lot of my girls were so, and especially at that point when it first came out, like all my girls were like hooked to that, and like because they all wanted to go to Navarro, and kind of tumbling in through that, things started to kind of unfold and kind of fall apart. So that was kind of a different scene, but yes, I saw
Nice.
that. It was awesome.
Nice.
So the jock got the cheerleader.
Fortunately,
Awesome. And the nerd.
And then I moved from there. Decided after 20 years of teaching and coaching cheerleading that it was time for a new challenge. And so I moved into marketing communications with our school district there in Argyle ISD.
Okay.
So I spent 3 years doing that. And then my kids needed me in different capacities. And so I needed a little bit of flexibility and all of that. And so I quit. And Chad was like, hey, why don't you help me? I'd been to several SIGs at that point. And we had kind of talked shop a little bit, here and there. about like, hey, you could probably do this. I think I could help with this, you know, kind of stuff. And so he's like, why don't you help me with cornhole? And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Nice.
And once I dipped my toe in, I was both feet, you know. So
That's what happened to me when I just dipped my toe into playing cornhole. I was all in.
Yeah.
So cornhole does that to you.
it does.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes and in front of the scenes.
Yeah, I remember when we were boxing up orders the first time, and I was like, hey, go grab this series of bags. And she's like, you don't even have labels of where they're at. How do you know? Well, I just know where they're at. I know where this one is. I know where that one is. She's like, no. So we got labels, and then we now have magnetic labels so we can move them around and do stuff. So there's just little things that you're kind of getting a female's touch on the TCL, and it's been really nice.
Or a professional's touch.
Professional.
We
Professional.
first met at the Brian, I think it was at the Brian event.
Yes.
And you had a bunch of merch out, and
Yes.
you were a new face. I hadn't met you yet, and you were so friendly and nice to me, and you encouraged me to buy some merch, and I'm just putting two together. Like, who is this the lady who's helping out? Like, oh, okay. Nice.
Yes.
And we've just been kicking off.
Yeah.
since then,
So we're having a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot has changed. I think a lot has improved. I think we're having a great time. And so if we can keep that passion together and keep growing, and we're on the right path.
What year did you get involved with TCL?
Get involved was start working
Yeah.
past August.
Oh, that's why it's getting a little bit
2025.
better.
So
Makes sense.
the start of this season was when I, officially.
Oh, wonderful.
Popped
Do y'all
in.
need me to leave now? And just,
Yeah.
We're done.
Y'all
We got it.
You got it right there? Okay, there we go.
So 2025 is when you started.
Yes.
You started in 2009.
Yes.
So take us back to
Yeah,
2009. Like,
Yeah, so
But can you take us back prior to that? Because I don't know if 2009 is when it kicked off, or was there thoughts before 2009?
no, so I was playing slow pitch softball and kind of doing different things. I actually played in a really cool league down in San Antonio when I lived down there. It was a slow pitch league that only had one field. It was called Braun Hall, and it was an alumni league. And it really gave me a framework for TCL of how to do things, really kind of encompassing just outside the game and bringing everyone together and doing stuff. And so whenever cornhole kind of got started, I actually learned cornhole whenever I was in college. I pitched washers, and my roommate went to Chicago for an internship and came back and was like, yeah, we got to play cornhole and all this stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm used to throwing a washer in a 3-inch cup, and this is a 6-inch. Okay, in a 6-inch hole. Okay, this is great. But the distance he was having us throw from was only 21 feet, not 27. And I was like, this is stupid. You make everyone in the hole. This is terrible. This is the worst game ever. I'm never playing this. And so fast forward, we're at the neighborhood pool, and kids are playing, and my daughter meets this girl, and they start playing, kind of hanging out and all this stuff with that. And her dad was one of 4 boys also. He was a high school coach, and we hit it off, and they're like, oh, you got to play cornhole. I'm like, oh, great, here we go. And so enjoyed playing, because they're like, no, it's 27 feet. I'm like, okay, this is actually challenging. There's more defense in this than washers.
Yes.
This is great. The strategy kind of came out, and I was like, I like this.
Yeah.
This is a lot of fun. And so we just playing, for about a year, and doing all this stuff with that. And so it was
Like
around
backyard
and everything. And so it was about this time, and he came to me and goes, hey, can we do a tournament at your house? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, who all do we want to invite? And he goes, well, can we do it like as a thank you to all the coaches at the high school? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it, man. Let's beer bags and barbecue. $30, $10 for payout. You mean $10 for goes to there, $10 for food, $10 for beer. We're done. You know what I mean? Everyone got a shirt, all this stuff like that. And so we ran the tournament, had 32 teams, and we actually floated 2 kegs within the first hour and a half. And we were like, oh, what do we do? And one of the guys comes up and goes, hey, I'm actually higher up with Benny Keith. Give me a second. And so he calls one of his drivers in the area and has them bring 3 more kegs
Oh boy.
to the deal. And the 18-wheeler Bud Light truck pulls up in the neighborhood. In this neighborhood, it was like, I was the guy then at that point. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
you're the man.
in the neighborhood, you have the Bud Light truck pulling up, man. How
The
did you
neighbors
do
are
this?
like, hey,
Yeah,
wanna
what are
play.
you doing? And
Can
so,
I play cornhole?
yeah, and so we did that, and I didn't think anything of it. And then that fall, my youngest brother was still in college, and he was like, man, that was a good time. We need to do it again. We need to run a tournament, and can we do it over the Christmas break? And I was like, well, you're not going to do it outside in Texas. You mean, it could be great weather, it could be terrible weather. And one of my buddies said, hey, man, there's this bar out in Justin called the Mule Barn. you got to go check it out. And so I went out there and I was like, there's no way you can do it in this front area. And I go in the back and I'm like, And it was filled with junk. Terrible. Like it'll be like a bike shop. It was, I mean, all these different things. It was a church at some point there in the town and all this stuff like that. And the owner, Dakin, was like, hey, you can use this, but you got to clean it all out. If you clean it out, I'll handshake you right now. You can use it for as long as you want. I'm like, you're telling me if I clean this out, we have a handshake agreement that I can use it for as long as I want. He said, yep. And still to this day, just played a tournament there last night. Yeah. And handshake agreement still working. And
so the Mule Barn is where it all started.
Indoor. Yep. And
it's a great venue back
we cleaned it out. It took me 6 nights. No person came back 2 nights. I was the only one that was there every night. When we did a dumpster night, he had them hauled off, done. I filled up 6 dumpsters through the whole process. And then we hosted a tournament. We were originally going to do 32 teams. It filled up within 2 hours of people calling and texting. They want in. Then went to 48. Then went to 64. Fans like, Joel, I think we need to stop this at 80. Like, I don't know if I can run this over 80. I got to hand draw a bracket because I did it in a spreadsheet and did all that stuff. And so we capped at 81. I ended up letting 81 teams in because a guy showed up right at the end.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Times 2, right?
Yeah.
So 160 plus
160
people.
players.
Were there
on 11 courts?
Were there people already throwing cornhole tournaments?
No.
So it just gradually
I think there was a few
off.
around. There was a few around. So then we ran the tournament, ended up winning the tournament, and people complained that I won because I only threw on my boards.
Oh,
and
because you kept score.
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't have scorekeepers. That comes here in a month. So anyways, I took our winnings. It was $1,600. You know what I mean, at that tournament. And I said, Joel, let's take the $1,600 and let's start TCL. Let's start a cornhole league. Let's prove to them that we're the best, and let's just keep stats and do it. And he was like, all right, I'm in. And so that's how TCL started. Was pretty much people complaining that I won on my set of boards. So I was like, no, we're going to start this now, and we're going to do this. And so turns out that a couple weeks later, there was a cornhole tournament in a bowling alley in Useless. And
useless or Euless?
Useless.
I caught that. He's a Rick's going, what are you talking? Euless, useless.
Euless.
I don't want to roll with that. Just in case anybody from Euless
is from Euless.
It's an inside joke. It's a South Lake Trinity Trojans.
I caught it.
Somebody out there will know that joke.
And so anyways, we went to this bowling alley, and sure enough, it snowed that day. And they only had 13 teams. And there's some guys from East Ellis there, you know, kind of playing and doing all this stuff like that. And me and my buddy were playing, and we ended up getting second place, these guys from East Ellis. And they're like, man, y'all ever thrown? I'm like, yeah, I just threw a tournament with 81 teams a couple weeks ago. They're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And they're like, you know, and all this stuff like that. And so Jason Andrews was one of those guys from East Ellis. Okay. And that's how we met, was by chance. He almost didn't go to that tournament because it snowed. I almost didn't go because it snowed. We just happened to be there, and that's how we met. And so we hosted a tournament in February. You mean, so shortly after that. And
at the Mule Barn?
At the Mule Barn, 48 teams. Jason brought all the guys from East Ellis. And then sure enough, there was this guy coming from Mansfield area named J.D. Thompson.
J.D. Thompson?
I know that guy.
And his partner at the time, Matthew Pruser, played with him. And so we're playing a game, you know, tournament and all this stuff like that. And Jason, who's very good at numbers, and J.D., who's probably the smartest person that'll ever be on your podcast, and all this stuff. Well, anyways, they argue, and I'm talking argue about the score of a round. And it got bad, and that's how we got scoreboards. Because Jason and JD argued, because one said, no, I'm right. The other one said, no, I'm right. And they'd already picked up the bags. And, you know, Jason said, no, this is where this bag went. This is where this bag went. And JD's like, no, I know this. And so Jason and JD is why we got scoreboards. And sure enough, and then so it kind of started. So we had a group out of Mansfield. We had East Ellis. We had Mule Barn. And then we had a San Antonio group. And so,
did you always envision it becoming this big
No.
when you first started this process? Because it's blown up since 2009. So
yeah, it was a hobby for the longest time. We ran tournaments. You know, it was before Scoreholio, when I would after every tournament, I would input their stats.
Okay.
And always kick off the lowest score and kind of do things. And so that was tedious in itself, but you're only having so many deals. We would host a tournament once a month, and we'd rotate where one tournament would be in East Dallas this month, the next month would be in Mansfield, the next month would be in Mule Barn, the next month would be in San Antonio. We just kind of go. And that's how it kind of went until about 2015, 2016. And at that time, it started taking up more and more time. I think we were at like 10, 12 regions, and then it was kind of getting very there. And, the ability where we outgrew bars and we're starting to have more expenses running tournaments. When you start getting to soccer complexes and you're having hotel travel, you've got this, you've got that. And the amount of money you take from a little bit of the entry was not covering everything. And so, I would just, front the money myself. I'm very fortunate in my other job, which is
I was about to interrupt you and say, pause. Did you have another full-time job at this time, Chad?
Yeah, no,
you kind of read my mind here.
Yeah, I own a credit card processing company, and I've been very fortunate with that job. And that's really how TCL was able to get started, because I was very blessed with that job and still do it, even still to this day. But that enabled me to just have TCL grow itself and never have to put in really my own money and stuff like that. It was just kind of turn it back into it. And so anyways, my ex-wife, my wife at the time, said, "Hey, your hobby is amazing, but you're just taking too much of the time." And my boys are starting to get older, and kind of doing stuff. And she goes, "You either need to make money on this, or you got to stop." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Okay, well, cornhole tournaments, the payouts, which they are, I love it, but there's hardly any other sports out there that have local payouts like that. We don't go to a golf course, and the golf course doesn't pay you if you shoot a very good score.
Unless you're on the league.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But that's way up there. But backyard tournaments, even slow pitch softball, you win a t-shirt, you win, a trophy. It's not the nightly payouts that cornhole has, but I love that about our sport. that there. And so anyways, kind of came up with the idea of stamp bags. And coming off of slow pitch softball, you had USSSA and ASA and all the stuff of that. And so that's how I came up with stamp bags.
What year?
It was around 2016, 2017 of kind of doing that stuff.
Can we back up?
Mm-hmm.
Because you went from starting it and now we're at stamp bags.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming in between there are divisions in San Antonio, like TCL's grown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's about 12, 14 regions at that time.
I want to know how that happened. Like, how did you go from just being at the Mule Barn?
Yeah.
And now we're across the state.
Yeah, so we started to run signature series tournaments, but most of them were at bars when we started. The first league championship was at Mule Barn. It didn't even stop till 4:30 in the morning. And because we didn't know how to run a bracket to a certain extent, because you couldn't justify the time. You just, you want to play? Sure, we'll get you in.
140 people at 5 boards.
Yeah, the logistics of it. And we used to joke about it. It was TCL time. You know what I mean? We were always 2 hours late.
Still happens.
No, it doesn't now.
He doesn't go to the same tournament I go to.
Not at the signature series.
No, not at the signature.
At the signature series, that's TCL time.
A little touchy on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Hey, I got it for a long time. But also back in the day, we would have everyone throw down and back scores. Like you would throw 10, 13 frames to seed you for the tournament. So that in itself would take 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Or you had to pay in person. So imagine right now going up and paying in person for a SIG. Can you imagine that line?
I cannot imagine.
Just to get in. But now you have to do them. You have to input them. I remember one time, poor Nick, man, it was a smaller kickoff event. It was at Ryder Cup, and he actually launched the bracket and had it wrong format. Well, you can just go undo it. He had to retype in all those names. I swear I feel bad for Nick on that one, man. It was in Denton. It was a tough one. And Nick's amazing. He'll still say to this day, that was the worst time I ever had.
Pre-Scoreholio.
Pre-Scoreholio.
Yeah.
And so, Scoreholio helped grow everything because it automated stuff that you really want to do. At some point, the logistics of point scoring, I remember one season, I was like, I don't know if I have time to continue to keep a point system because I can't take these events in, because at that point we're at 12, 14, 15 regions. There are also many tournaments over a weekend. To do 15 input tournaments, while I'm doing my other job it was a lot, you know what I mean? Of kind of doing that stuff. So that's where it kind of how do we grow in other regions? People would show up and they'd be like, man, we really want one out in this side of town. Okay, let's work together. Let's get it going. You know what I mean? So getting people to buy in and kind of do that stuff to where they had a vested interest of why we're doing it together. And really the ranking system. At first we had divisions of doing it. We just had, at first it was just one division. And then we started with the competitive and social division, you know, and social division was kind of there. And we really got to ranks of doing that stuff because really there was another organization out there, national organization before even ACL was around, that was running tournaments. And their problem was that if you and I were partners, we had to play together every single tournament, because if Laura and I played together, then we got new points. Well, we're talking backyard sport. What happens if your job changes?
Yeah.
What happens if
I can't make a certain event? I'm out of town that weekend.
Or if you're,
but you want to play?
Yeah, your son's playing baseball. You got travel baseball. You can't play, and so I hated that. And so our point system was based off of individuals, but you can play with different people, so that now we don't have the best two players playing together. We now have ranks. So if she's an A player and he's a D player, if it's a BC tournament, they can play together or there. And it allowed more of a unity, a community. And so that was a huge deal. And it really, and it's still at that time, looking back on myself, I didn't care about the lower players. It was terrible. You mean? Because I was one of the top players. And so I was really focused on the top. And I really didn't see the whole picture. You know what I mean? I was younger, man. I started this at 28, 29 years old. And I was just not seeing it. And so I had shoulder surgery, and I couldn't throw with my right hand. And so I went to a big tournament, and I would convince Jason to let me play in the social division throwing left-handed. And it was the coolest experience because I saw the tournament from a whole different light.
That's where Cold Bear started. Cold Bear.
Absolutely.
Just having a good time.
Yeah, just having a good time.
Yeah.
And so really that was really the time. And it's a blessing that happened, because I was able to see it from another pair of eyes and was able to say, you know what, it's more about just from the top players winning. It's the whole group of people there at the deal. And it was awesome. It was a good deal. I still love to throw a left-handed.
The best time at SIG is when the E, D, and C play championships are going on.
I love it.
There are so many people supporting everybody.
Yes.
It's great.
We love to see the elites
Yeah.
and the A's play because they can do magic with the
bags.
But the excitement the new players have,
Yeah.
oh, it's awesome. So I'm glad you broke your arm
Yeah.
to see that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rick has some questions about building the brand. You have some really good questions.
I think we should pivot.
Where you want to pivot to?
Because we just talked about B, C,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The ranks.
The rankings.
So we want
I
to
hear we have
change it
some-
from
some
tiers.
news.
I got some graphics here, so let's do this. Give me a second.
But we really want people to start using the word rank and not tier.
Yes.
And the
Okay,
reason
we're
why
going
is
to rankings.
rankings, and it's your rank, not your tier. And the reason why is because brackets have a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 at SIGs.
Right.
And not to confuse people, we really want to really focus on the word rank. So you're a B rank, a C rank, a D rank, an E rank, and an F rank.
There's an F rank now.
There's an F
We're
rank.
going to find
There
out.
will be.
Laura's
Okay.
going to tell us about
Oh,
it, right?
I can tell you all about it.
Here's
Please
what we're gonna
do.
do. We're gonna
Because I'll be in it.
I have the screen right behind me, so you guys
I'll be
can
in it.
reference that, and I'll bring it up full screen for our viewers as well. So this is the current TCL rank right now.
I think it's skewed because I remember a B
And so we'll leave it for a
726
second
to a 11.5. That's what I'm
this
playing.
is,
Yeah. Do
so
the numbers on top mean anything? The 1,200.
That's the number of
1,000?
players.
So that's the number of players. Yeah.
The number of players. Okay,
Yeah.
so walk us through the current rank. The next slide you're going to have me go to is the proposed rank. So walk us through the current. Anything different? We need to talk about this.
Yeah, please.
You
Laura.
like it? You don't like this? Well, what's good about this? What's bad about this?
Okay, so this is our current rank system. And of course, the points out to the side are the current PPR that we kind of utilize to determine a player's rank. If they're going above that or below that, sometimes is when they move up or move down as far as the rank is concerned. This season has been a whole algorithm worth of other, parameters that we utilize too to determine a player's rank as well. But everyone can understand the PPR, and that seems to be what everybody cares about. So
really, guys, where this is right now, like if a new player was to sign up and they've been playing other Cornhole events, that's their PPR range. what Laura was hitting on, and she hit on it greatly, is that there's 10 different categories that we look at in 3 different divisions of stats. So it's all your Scorholio events, then it's your in-season events, then it's what they call selected events.
Okay.
Selected events are all SIG events. So we really take what your PPR, what your DPR, what your points against are, all these different factors at SIGs, at TCL events, and all Scorholio events. And then, but for numbers and for graph purposes, this is really the PPR that people have when they first get going.
Right.
Are the SIG events weighted more in terms of that? 'Cause JD would probably do that, but is it the same point value?
No, they're weighted differently of kind of doing that stuff. But if you don't have enough selected events, then we end up using other stats that kind of goes in. So the SIG don't affect you by going. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
you can still get bumped by staying at home and doing things.
Okay, so that's the current. Let's take a look at the proposed TCL rank system. They're going to see some new words, some new letters. So I'll let you guys kind of walk this through. A lot of people are going to watch this podcast. Hopefully, a lot of your TCL players, directors, new people, veterans will see this maybe for the first time. So unveil for us this proposed TCL rank.
And you guys know how important
so-
this is to the people watching.
100%. But let's go
People
right
live-
back. Let's go right back.
live and die
for a
for
second.
this.
Go back
They
for a
do.
second.
Yeah, go back for a second. And so what's been refreshing, guys, about working side by side with someone that is newer to cornhole is that as Laura's been figuring out the game and learning the process, it's been really nice.
There we go.
It's been really nice to her because the questions that she has being so new to cornhole, sometimes when you talk to someone that's been around it forever, they're already kind of pigeonholed in the deal. She's like, well, why do we do this? Why do we do this? And so it's been great questions. And if you look at the stats, really you're at 1 point difference all the way through pretty much, to a certain deal, and especially in your C and D and kind of going up to where, you've really have in those divisions from the 6.26 up to the 8.26, you're going up 2 points, and it's over 2 divisions, which have the most amount of players in the B and the C.
It's a huge amount of players.
And B and C, yeah.
Yes.
It's 1.25 for a D, a 1 and a 1 for a B, and a 0.5 for the A in the terms of the range of PPR.
Yeah, from
That's
the
what you're
old
saying.
one and stuff like that. Because at that point, and I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. A PPR will let you know what you aren't. It won't let you know what you are. You know what I mean? It'll tell you what you aren't. Like if you're throwing an 8, you're not a social player. Does that make sense? But an 8 could be an A player or a B player, depending on other stats. And that's where the DPR and your points against and all those other factors that come in, your on-off percentages, your in percentages, because some of the best players actually dirty the hole up and they're not going hole for hole.
Their PPR's low and
Correct.
they could care less.
It's
It's
like-
all about DPR for them.
Defense wins championships. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so a PPR will tell you what you're not, but it can't always tell you what you are. So that's the reason why you got to have other stats. But the stat that everyone cares about is their PPR. So by looking at this, doing it. So when you take the numbers, which we currently have 3,200 players that have regional or premium memberships,
Okay.
not including basic memberships. Okay. So that's 3,200 players that are just regional and premium and kind of doing that stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? As you look at stats and doing it. And what we have is basic memberships in there too. And when you take at those, we don't look at anybody that did not play at least this year or the year prior. You know what I mean? Then they're kind of off record.
You don't look at them.
We don't
Right.
look at them. We don't look
So
at
kind of
percentages.
threw that out.
Threw all that stuff out. And so when we take in these 2 categories, what she noticed and brought up is we need to divide these. And we need to take the 2 middle categories, the B and C,
Okay.
and go into 3. Well, you can't really have, what are you going to have, a B minus, C plus? Like, that's terrible.
So here's what you came up with.
Yep,
Here
so-
it is.
Yep.
Walk us through what all this is.
Yeah,
The floor is
so-
yours.
Yeah, so we're adding an F for fun.
Enough.
I'll be in that one.
Oh, NF?
Yeah.
NF? Yeah, NF.
An F rank.
NF for fun.
No, but seriously, we are kind of dividing out the B and C into B, C, and D, basically. And so, because that's really where most of our feedback comes from, are B and C players, which there's just way too many of them pigeonholed in those 2 ranks. So kind of dividing it out more and kind of spreading out the PPRs and everything for the different ranges, and then adding the bottom F rank really is then able to even out the standings or the population of TCL into the proportionally, basically.
Well, the closer the games, the better the game. And then you feel like
for sure.
You feel like you've
Because
had a
there's
great
a
game and
huge
you played somebody who you could beat
Right.
instead of somebody who you will never be able to beat.
Right.
So that's looking at this, it's kind of like 0.75 instead of 1% or better.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
100%. And so looking at it, what we did is pretty much anybody that was in D is moving down to E. Anybody that was in E is moving down to F. And then really you take in your B and C, which is around 1,800 to 1,900 players, okay, in that range, which it fluctuates, you know what I mean, of who's playing, who's not playing. But let's just call it 1,800. So you had 900 each in B and C. Well, that's a lot of players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if we can take that 1,800 and divide it into 3 categories,
B, C, and D.
600
B, C, and
in
D
each
is
one.
where they're going to live now.
Yep, they're going to live in
So
there. And
if you're watching this, if you're a B or a C player, you're now going to be a B, C, or a D player. If you're a higher end C player, you might now be a B. Is that right? In a lower end C, you might be a D.
well,
Am I saying that right?
more than likely your C division is going to be split. You know what I mean? Like where 2/3 of your C division will go down to D.
Got it. Okay.
Your top third of C will stay C, and your bottom third of B
will become a C.
correct.
Got it.
Math is
Even
hard.
a dumb guy like me, I'd literally just
Math
So
is hard,
guys,
bro.
if I can get it watching, then y'all can get this. I love this.
What we also love about the new rank or proposed rank system for TCL is the different, then therefore divisions kind of organically of how they're.
Is that the elite, advanced, competitive,
Exactly.
and social are now going to be the division terminology?
Yes, right. So yeah, so Pro and S will be elite. A and B will be advanced, C and D will be competitive, and E and F will be social.
Yep.
So
And we also changed, guys, the B players. If you notice, we went up to 8.29. And the reason why, the reason why we did that is there was a ton of players that were 8.25 to 8.29 that were really, they were not A players. You know what I mean? They were just barely above. And so really the true break was 8.3, not 8.25 and stuff like that.
I agree with these
kind
numbers.
It's kind of where
That's where we're at.
We were-
We're stuck in limbo.
we now we're kind of dipped down a bit more, but for a while, the you
And so-
described was us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's 100% there. And so really, you know, we've had people reach in like, hey, I really think I need to be dropped down. Well, and a lot of people bring up good arguments. Some of the arguments that I don't like, though, are whenever you're killing it at your regional level and then you go to SIG and you don't win SIG, when there's 256 players in the C division, you should feel very fortunate and lucky if you are to place at a SIG because you threw amazing.
You threw gas.
You know what I mean? And if you expect to go to a SIG and win money, you're probably too low. You know what I mean? You should be excited because you placed and all that stuff. And so that's really when you go to SIGs and you play the round robin. And that's the reason why we have the tiers, because literally if I'm a B player, okay, which I am, if I play really good that day, I can go tier 1, which probably means I didn't throw like a B. I threw like an A.
On that
Because
day.
on that day. You mean, because cornhole's a lot like baseball. You can go 3 for 3 or 3 for 4 one day, and then the next day go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. You know what I mean? And it happens. Baseball and cornhole have a lot in common with this. You know, you're a good player, but some days you have off days. And so the players that throw above their rank typically go to tier 1. You know what I mean? Right. The players that throw their rank are typically tier 2. And players that throw below their rank that have the 0 for 4 strikeout game go to tier 3, but you can still
That's
play.
been me like the last 4 SIGs.
I got a question. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Clarifying question.
Yeah.
Because we still have elite, advanced, competitive, and social. Is that how it's going to break down at SIG?
No.
No.
It'll still be
This is
S,
more-
A, B,
yeah,
C,
this
D,
is
E,
more
F.
Yeah.
regional
No.
level.
We're going to have
Okay.
at SIGs, you're still going to have a B division, a C division, D division, E division,
love
F
it.
division. But what we're also proposing something else later is we're going to have a different deal in between SIGs and regionals we're coming up with a name, but I like the name Super Regionals. So do you.
Super regional.
Super
That's
Regionals.
a softball term.
That's a softball
Baseball,
terminology. I just found
baseball,
out today.
softball, yeah, absolutely. And so that is where the division names may come in, because when you go to a tournament that is only 300 to 400 players, kind of like the pre-SIGs back in 2015, 2016. You know, I mean, actually in 2016, guys, I won the double state championship. I was the best player. Joe Arrington, I won in
The whole
2016.
thing?
Yeah. And people can say, still to this day, they're like, no one played during that day. But if I can mention some names, y'all be like, these guys are really good. You know, BG was in that field. Josh Murdoch was in that field.
Hey, we'll always give you the
Pereira.
W because Rob brings
Yeah.
up the
All
SIG
those
that
guys.
we won
We won
one
SIG.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never forget it.
But
It was
you mean,
awesome.
hey, I also learned a valuable lesson that day in singles. I was playing BG in singles, and I was up 18-0 on him. And we walked down to the other end of the court. You know, I mean, I'm an idiot. when
You're
I
up
play.
18-0 on
18-0
Brandon Greger.
on BG.
You start talking smack.
Oh,
Oh no, he
Like,
bends
oh.
down. He bends down, and he's having an off game. He bends down to pick up the bags, and I start dancing over him like
no.
this.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
no.
BG just looks up at me and gives me one of those things.
Oh,
Goes,
no.
hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Comes back. He beats me 21-18.
Locked in.
Oh my gosh.
Locked in.
You never dance over BG. Let's just talk about that. You know what I mean? I learned a valuable lesson. BG is one of the greatest players that ever played TCL.
Well, while I'm thinking about it, before I get away from it, let's talk about. If I can pull it up here. Oh, there's your email right there. I want to show y'all. TCL's last SIG is coming up.
Oh, you have to show this footage,
So
huh?
I got this.
This
footage.
is some
So
great
we're gonna
footage.
Talk about
Good
this.
footage. Who did this footage?
I probably shot this. I have my little side hustle, my side gig. So I shot this Joni inside, outside. But walk us through as the video plays. The last SIG, it's the season finale, and it's gonna go. We're going back to
Pickler Universe,
Let's
right
go,
there. Yep.
Carrolton.
It's actually an amazing venue. Super conducive to a SIG. And there's so many different parts to this venue that, you know, just really, I think, allows our players to really capitalize on, you know, different, you know, their play and their hanging out and their, you know, camaraderie and community feel. So we love this venue.
Do you think June 4 through 6 will get you more entrants than the one we had in March because it's more summer-ish time, or have you found that not to be the case? Or because the last one of the year, do you get more people signing up for that one? Or
Yes and no. We would prefer to actually have the final tournament of the year in May. We settled on the June 4th through 6th dates, moving it from May, because when we were going to go to the other Pickler location, they were worried about construction and worried about if they could get it finished in
Waco?
time. No,
No,
Pickler.
the
And
DFW
Waco too.
location.
the other one
Well,
was,
we were in Waco at the deal,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, when they sent us back beer pricing at $10 a beer, I said, we're not going. And they wouldn't negotiate.
It's
And
too
so I
bad.
said, see you later, which I love Waco. I wish we were there. And I love the town of Waco. I just wish that they would figure it out and give us good beer prices. But anyways, so then we were going to go to Pickler, and they needed the end of the month. So they really wanted June to be at the DFW location at Pickler. And so when we looked at it, they actually they're going to have a national pickleball tournament the week before.
okay.
And it was going to be at the new venue. And so I was like, well, let's go the week after, because then they'll be done with construction. They're not going to miss their deal. And so everything is going great. It's awesome. We're done with the SIG in Wichita Falls. You know, we've already launched this event. We've already launched
Yeah,
hotels.
we advertised this. Save the date.
We're actually
Pickler Universe DFW.
Yeah.
Here we
I
come.
And
remember.
we're excited, and it was a Monday. And we're like, okay, let's start working on next year now. Like, let's get ahead of the thing. Let's start working on the guides. Let's start working on the rule book. We're gonna adjust everything. Let's work on the bag agreements, all the stuff. And we go to lunch, and we're like, kind of line items of what we're gonna work on that week and going to the next week to get all done. And we get back from lunch and email
Oh no. From Pickler.
from
Yes.
Pickler. Construction delays. We are not gonna be able to do it. And I was fired up. I was like, no way.
I was like, no, like we literally just announced it.
Yeah. And so after talking to Pickler and figuring out that they're not even going to be able to have the national pickleball tournament, which the delays were not just for us.
Yeah.
It was for everyone, that they have to move the national one back to the Carrolton location. And they were great to work with, you know, after finding that out. I'm not mad at all. Luckily, we had known that was an option. if construction was there. So they had simultaneously reserved the Carrolton location. So we just had to
really?
flop it. Yeah.
Luckily.
And
Wow, that's a good one.
Nice.
and so, we hope to eventually go to the DFW location because it's supposed to be really cool. There's some new things. They're going to have a full service restaurant in that one. Some different things.
Is it in Fort Worth?
This
It's
was
in
a
the
good
South
spot here.
DFW.
Where,
It's like
where y'all
literally
had the
DFW
booth
airport.
set right here as you first walk in?
Vendor Village. We
Vendor-
love it.
That was a really good
Vendor
location
Village
for
was
Pickler.
awesome. That the bar at the back right there, more people need to go there and kind of do it. Never had lines. It was a great
Yes.
spot right there. The upstairs area bar
Was great.
a lot of people never went up there, and they should. You got to go upstairs,
And there's a
guys.
restroom
There's
up there.
And there's
also
restrooms
restrooms.
behind. They were
Yes.
almost semi.
They were talking about the restroom
They're the
fiasco.
hidden restrooms.
They were
up
semi.
there.
They were semi-private because no one knew about.
Yeah,
Wow.
until they did.
Until they did. And
They
so-
were bougie too.
Yeah.
were.
They're nice.
Yeah. But in any new venue, guys, and I hope that people understand this, and the constructive criticism that we got from the venue
We got a hit.
was good. But I will say every venue we've been to, their first time is very tough because we're an event unlike any others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know we just had the Masters, it's a golf tournament unlike any others. You mean we're an event unlike any others.
Yeah, people
You
don't
can't-
realize how many people are coming.
And how many people are going to the concession stand and how many people are going to the bar and all the stuff like that and how we run things. Really the venue that did it the best for the first time ever was Legends down in Bryan.
It's amazing.
They did a phenomenal
That place.
job,
Loved it.
but I will say the reason why I think they did so well, one, it was Jamie and his crew, which he runs a fabulous deal and his staff is amazing. But they run volleyball tournaments, basketball tournaments. They get us. You mean so the learning curve of us having to explain what we need and how we do an event was minimal.
Especially with the amount of spectators that people bring in, similar to the volleyball and basketball situation. That's what we have too.
Yeah.
So the pickleball doesn't have as many. The flow is different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
And
we need to switch gears because
Yeah.
I appreciate you
This is awesome.
filling us in. But I really want to get into building the sport
Yeah.
because we all know 2009
9.
when it started, but I think 3 years ago,
Yeah.
I think we were at our peak.
No.
When we were at our peak,
Now.
we're at our peak now.
Yeah. We have more players than we've ever had.
Okay,
You know what I mean? And so here.
may I?
Yeah,
real quick,
absolutely.
real quick,
Absolutely.
because they say you're a visionary. Everybody I talk to tells how much pride and effort and work you put into it behind the scenes. And I don't think a lot of people know that about you. Everybody I've talked to about Chad is that, because a lot of people see you out there having a good time, but they don't know the work you're putting into it. I just want to know, because you got to have a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
So you have TCL, and then
Mhm.
you have the bag manufacturers, and then you have the venues, and then you got all that's going on behind the scenes, and we don't know.
it's so
But-
many layers.
Yeah, and we don't know what's going on, but
So many.
to me, it's like building the brand. How do you pick a region? What does that look like? Because we have so many people in DFW, but not everybody's a regional, right? And I think more regions, wider spread, the bigger you get, you're going to have to put more people on. Have you talked about the 5-year plan? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. One, the thing I value most is being a father. I love my boys. They're a freshman and sophomore, and I know that I've got 3-4 years before they go off to college. And so a lot of the stuff inside TCL is kind of geared timeline based on the boys, too. Being able to put people in the right place. We were fortunate. We actually worked at the same restaurant growing up called Rockfish there in Southlake. And we had an amazing manager called Jack Lehman. And one thing that I love is Jack said the key to good manager is managing themselves out of a job. And the cool thing about that saying is being what we do, by the time we get to SIG, putting Nick and JD in charge of there, putting Sammy in charge up at the deal, putting Jared in charge at the store, finding good managers that can manage their section of the deal and trusting in them to be able to do it allows me to enjoy the event because we need everything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And being able to do that stuff, allowing Laura to be able to run her stuff, and I trust her to do what she has to do, and I don't have to babysit. I don't have to micromanage. I don't have to do this stuff, because behind the scenes leading up to it is putting the framework in place, the day-to-day stuff. 90% of my work is done before we get to SIG. The 10% when we get to SIG is just going to talk to Nick. Hey, Nick, how's everything going? Is there anything that you need help with? Are you good? You know what I mean? Or, hey, Chad, this is the one issue that I have. Okay, great. Trust you. What you think is best? Let's solve it. Let's go there. Laura, what's going on here? Jared, what's going on here at the store? And so going and talking to the 3 or 4, the 5 different groups that we have has allowed it to kind of grow. Being who I am, which a bit of a control freak, you mean, was tough.
Laura laughs.
For the longest time, I would micromanage, and it was terrible. And recently, I've been able to kind of see that from another side, and it's helped out. So the growth of that going. So there's visions. There's a 5-year plan. There's a 10-year plan for TCL. We are the largest cornhole conference in the world. There's not another cornhole conference that's bigger than ours. You know what I mean? There's 2 national organizations that do stuff. We're not a national organization. We're a regional. You know what I mean? And we are a conference, just like college football. You know what I mean? Where you have the Southeast, the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12. You mean all that stuff? We're like that. Everyone is drivable. I don't know how many times I can get on a flight to go play cornhole in a year. Once if I'm lucky. You know what I mean? And TCL was built because we're able to drive 3 hours, 5 hours, even some people drive 7 to 8 hours.
Right.
You know, the guys down the coast and the different things like that. So really when we hit on different things, it's really having that drivable experience that I can go be a weekend warrior doing those things. And so we have, the 6 Signature Series tournaments. And one thing that I tried a few years ago, it flopped because we weren't ready for it, is super regionals.
Yeah.
And those are mini SIGs. They're pretty much like a day-and-a-half tournament. Like the old days when we used to run SIGs is really now that we can work with regions. 3 or 5 of them can get together and run a super regional, and it can be a one-day tournament. And now we can hit other parts. We can go out to New Mexico. We can go up to Oklahoma. We can hit the coast. We can do some of these events. We can go to Louisiana, go to Arkansas and kind of run some of these super regionals. And those, we have our team, again, putting people in the right place, getting good regional directors that can go run this event. We can show up and be supportive.
And they can take ownership in it.
And they can take ownership, and we don't have to run it. It's not there, but we can go promote and kind of do some things, or it's even finding other people. It may be Rick. Hey, Rick, will you go be the ambassador for TCL at this super regional?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Whatever you say, sir.
You know what I mean?
For
And so really, being able to find people that can help be the ambassadors, because, we can't be everywhere.
Right.
Love to. One thing we made a point of, we're both really busy in the fall with our boys' schedules. Laura's got 2 boys too, with football and different things like that, where it's hard for me to go on events, when I've got the boys' practices, different things and games.
We were very thankful that you showed up at the Kinfolk Crawfish event out there in Alvarado that Roger put together. You showed
was
up.
a blessing because we were able to get to
really
know you,
were blessed.
get a little bit closer.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And it's fun. And Kinfolk is an amazing group. What they do as an organization, their region is awesome. And, that whole group, man, their core unit is solid. The people that go to those regional tournaments, they love it. And so we were fortunate to go there. We went down to San Antonio, went to Tito's tournament. That was a fun deal. Last night I got to go play at the Mule Barn. I haven't been to the Mule Barn in forever to be able to play. And that was fun, just being back in the building and kind of doing it until I got double dipped.
Oh, you got double.
I got double dipped last night.
Who double dipped you?
Jimmy Reese, the professional angler. He's a
you?
professional angler.
What's his name?
Jimmy Reese. Yes, he's a phenomenal
fisherman
angler. Yeah,
Yes.
He's awesome. He is one of the coolest guys in cornhole. If you want a good story, he would actually be a great guy to come on.
Yeah,
That's who I'm going to recommend you
Yeah,
get Jimmy
please
Reese
do it.
on
He's
here,
awesome.
Please do it.
and kind of doing that stuff. But I will blame Thomas Anderson.
He's a good player.
For my double dip.
was that your partner?
No, he was the one running the bracket, and he ran the winners final well before the losers bracket was getting there. I'm like, I'm gonna get cold sitting
You're
here. He goes,
waiting.
you want to get cold, and then it got in my head, and dang you, Thomas,
That's how I feel at SIGs.
calling you
I'm
out,
just kidding.
buddy. I'm just kidding.
But
But they do a great job. Jeremy, Thomas, and Eddie up there at Mule Barn. What Jeremy's been able to do, and now Eddie and Thomas helping him out, has been phenomenal at Mule Barn. And really the growth of TCL has been fortunate because I was able to get away from running a local region at that deal for the time. But you know what I mean, we're getting ready to kickstart a new region ourselves at the property at the Cornhole store there in Argyle.
You guys yourselves?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
My boy, I mean, one of her boys and my two boys, one of mine in particular, one of her boys are really getting into cornhole, running stuff, doing things in the store, kind of doing all that stuff. And so I want Hudson to especially learn how to run a region, because I think whenever he goes to college, I think he's going to want to do that. Be a regional director and all that stuff like that. So we're going to start running some events just there and kind of putting him in charge and kind of letting the
Do
boys
you have
kinda
a
see that.
desire to do college based like ACL? Yeah,
Well, see,
they've already done that. Do you want to take
They got that
TCL
idea from me.
to the college level?
They got that idea from me, but just so you know.
For realsies.
For reals.
Wow.
I mean, Stacy's a great guy, and what ACL has done with professional cornhole is amazing. They run a pro division unlike anybody else. They are the best pro cornhole organization in the world, and they do awesome on ESPN. And what they do is they're not a competitor. You know what I mean? We want our top players to go play ACL. They deserve to play. But at the local level, I'm not going to be a pro player. Doubt anybody in this room is going to be a pro player. I have no desire. You mean what they put in, time out. You mean how good they are. You mean is great. But we're the best at what we do, and that's a conference level. You know what I mean? And one of the greatest sayings, another guy that runs the other national organization, the ACO, Eric Heinerman. You know, Frank Gears owns it, but
Right.
Eric Heinerman's probably the guy that I got most knowledge from cornhole. And
You told me a month ago at the event, you said he's the smartest guy in cornhole you've ever met.
He's the smartest guy in cornhole I've ever met.
Eric
Heinerman.
a guy,
phenomenal.
a name we hardly ever hear
Yeah,
about.
and I mean, if anybody wants to say thank you for cornhole on the map, it's Eric Heinerman. And doesn't get enough credit. But literally, when I was talking about wanting to start this thing down in Texas and all this stuff and everything, and Eric's like, well, Chad, I'll tell you this. Never run a tournament for 100% payout, because people won't respect you, because you'll end up getting frustrated that you're giving 100% of your time for nothing. You know what I mean? You got to take something. I don't care if it's 5%, 10%, whatever you do, you've got to do that, because at some point it's not going to be fun. Doing once a year tournament, yeah, you can do 100% turnout. But if you're going to host it all the time, you know what I mean, and all these events, you've got to do something, because you've got to go back to your family and look them in the eye of why you weren't around.
Yeah.
The other thing he said, if you want to be a pro player, don't go get a set of cornhole boards. What I want you to do is get a coffee can, go dig it in the hole from 27 feet away. Until you can make 50 in a row, you're not going to be a professional.
In the
cornhole
hole,
player.
in the ground.
In the ground.
Wow.
Until you can do
I
that,
agree.
until you do that,
Wow.
you're not
I
going to be a
agree.
professional cornhole player. Don't even worry about sliding them.
We saw Logan Chamberlain on some video he
46
did.
in a row.
40 on practice sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Man,
he
it's
airmailed. I think he
amazing.
airmailed that many in a row.
It's amazing.
It's something insane amount. It was
The
18
coolest,
in a row.
the coolest
18 in a row.
game that I've ever seen is when we were in Tunica, Mississippi, at an ACO championship, and you had Eric Zockline and Isidro Herrera, and I think in that game they made a combined 140 something bags in the hole, and this is throwing
Bananas.
the suede bags back in the day.
That's great.
Those are slow, aren't they?
Oh,
Yeah, they're like
yeah, but
molasses.
they were just. I mean,
Unless you flip it over.
it had the slick in the deal, and they're there, and the emblem on the front was embroidered on it.
Oh wow.
And these guys are hitting that me in the deal, and it was still one of the
Old
coolest.
school.
Old school.
I want to go back
We will.
because you didn't.
We will.
Maybe we didn't answer the question.
Yeah. Okay.
TCL.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the platform to help grow the sport. Like you have the ability to help, and to me, I believe the regionals, the switches, all those events. I think the big events that you're throwing at the signature series, that's kind of like the Super Bowl for all those people that come in there and play, however you want to see it.
Yeah. That was our word first, by the way. Signature series.
Yeah. Signature series. But getting new players should be a priority
It is.
for
Sure.
TCL brand.
Absolutely.
And I think the regionals and those events are the areas to do it.
100%.
How are you helping them grow the brand?
Yeah. So a couple things, and Laura can kind of touch on this here in a second. Looking at next year, starting different style of events. You know what I mean? You've got regional tournaments, singles, doubles. You've got local events. Then you have community events, you know, which in my opinion are charities, festivals, stuff like that of doing it. And then growth events. And so do you want to hit on growth events and community events, kind of those two?
Yeah. So in my opinion, especially I always have the hat of outside looking in because I really just started playing cornhole and maybe Mesquite was my first sip.
That's why you're in the F
That's why I'm in the F.
rank.
Yes.
Is that what we're calling it? F rank?
Frank. Yes.
Frank.
Frank.
That's going to be a joke.
But you want to get people involved that have never been exposed to it, right? So that's really your charity community events where they wouldn't be exposed to it unless their corporation was holding this team building activity,
Sure.
right?
Very, very.
And then
standard.
all of a sudden, you just
they had a good time, and then they hear about there's leagues.
yeah, like wait,
10 miles away at the
how do we
bar
get
or
into
somewhere.
this?
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
How do we play more?
Yeah.
So it's really those types of people that will truly build as far as new players are concerned, and it's the member guest activities that the events, the growth events. So you bring in somebody, you know, you're a premium member, you bring in a neighbor.
So just like this, like whenever you were driving down the road and you see this guy playing cornhole in his yard.
This guy.
This
Is
story.
that how y'all met?
This is how
You
it
know what I mean?
happened.
Yeah.
That's how they
This is
met.
how it happened.
Oh.
And so it would be one of those things that literally in your neighborhood when you're playing deal, but this guy has never made it out.
Like, come on, let's
You
go.
mean, hey, this regional tournament is going to be a growth event to where one has to have a membership, the other one does not have to membership, but you can't guys go cherry pick someone that's
like
just playing
that.
basic,
I like
and it's a
that.
member guest, like you see at golf
At golf
Yeah.
tournaments.
golf
Yeah.
tournaments. And so
Very
regional
much, yes.
directors can have member guest tournaments. We're also talking about growth memberships to where what we may do in newer areas is that they can give out a growth regional membership. So like you guys, for example, already have a premium membership. So you would not be eligible for a growth membership. People with regional memberships, people with basic, not really, but yes. So if there's someone that, hey, hasn't turned the corner or you mean is there, hey, we're going to let regional directors give away some growth regional memberships. It's going to still count the same as region. You know what I mean? But it's going to cost less, or we may even factor some in for free for newer areas so they can have enough regional members to start running regional tournaments.
Yeah.
And
So they have like maybe 10 a season to give out or something like that.
yeah, so growth stuff. So really kind of hit on the area. And, you know, what's been great about, you know, the 50 different regions that we have is really kind of working with them and really streamlining and seeing, you mean, some of the trials that they have. And I think you hit on this earlier, like, man, cornhole was at the peak 2-3 years ago. I don't think it was. I think now is actually, there's more people playing cornhole than before, but that not a problem. It's just a different thing that you have to face is there's more people playing cornhole. There's more opportunities to play, so the events aren't getting the numbers that they were getting, but there's more options. You mean, back in 2009, we were driving to East Dallas to go play a deal. You mean, I remember having Eddie Grindersleeve and Kenneth Johnston driving from
Houston area,
Central
right?
Texas
Central
to our
Texas.
league night at Mule Barn.
Yeah, because we don't
You
know
know?
how many people are
And
playing
they were at
on
Blue
a
Ridge.
Tuesday.
They're from Blue Ridge, Texas.
But there
yeah.
could be 2 people that in TCL region, but there could be 5 people throwing something on a Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you start talking about where a region belongs, you mean, it's hard to give it a distance because we go out to our West Texas regions. An hour drive out there is 60 miles. An hour drive out here, maybe 10 minutes based on traffic, construction, everything we got. You know what I mean? So distance you can't do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then you kind of started going to population with zip codes, with different things like that. That helps out some. So you really got to take an area and say, can they sustain a league night, weekly league night? If you can sustain a weekly league night, you're a region. If it's hard for you to get a weekly league night, you're probably a local director. You know what I mean? That needs to kind of do some stuff.
Stay
And
with
so,
local events.
Yes.
And
Stay with
just
local
kinda tag
events, do
onto
things. Yeah, and
your nearest region.
yeah, and hitting back on the community events, one thing that Laura wanted to kind of bring up, and it was kind of a cool thing that we're going to add in there. Local events or community events are going to be their own points category next year. They're not going to count the same as switches. So you're going to have random partner events that'll be the category for switches and random draws, which we all run a bunch of them. We've seen the numbers go down for community events. And I think everybody in here from the directors to players to anybody, needs to give back. And giving back is through community events. So you're going to have 2 categories. Think of it like bonus points on an exam. And so you're going to get the ability to have your 2 highest community events. Go play in a festival to support your town. Go play in a charity event to support this family that's in need.
C4C.
C4C, different things like that. So you can go play in 2 community events to give you bonus points.
And get bonus points.
Bonus points on your final deal, but it can only be community events. So it's got to be a festival or a charity.
You're thinking
a
2
minimum
a year
of 2
for each region.
No, for each player.
for each
player.
Each player.
Oh, wow.
And if you want to maximize your points, you got to go give back and go find 2 things that tickle your heart.
And there's a ton of
that.
them out there all the time.
Is there anything you want to tell the directors or the regionals, something they might know to help you grow the brand, what they should be doing or anything?
Well, a lot of the regional directors, man, what we've started is we do a group text now with each region, which has helped speed up communication. It was before it was email
They
or
can
a
reach out to us
Facebook
anytime.
chat.
By
you
the
know what
way,
I mean?
emails are on the slide right now. If you want to bug these 2, Chad at tclcornhole.com or Laura at tclcornhole.com. They're going to flood your inbox.
Thank
Okay.
you. But
Bring
if you really
Bring
got
it.
great questions, you want to go to events at
Or
tclcornhole.com
events.
or points at
Yeah.
tclcornhole.com.
If you want to dispute your rank,
go to points. If you want to talk about an event, go to events. And the reason why we do that, guys, the reason why we have those, I call them generic events, but they're category emails, is because we have different people that look at different emails. So if I'm out and busy, it may be Jason looking at events emails also. It may be, Nick looking at these with us. It may be this person. So if you're going to grow, you can't have it be one person. You've got to be able to have it to where if Rick stepped in, Rick can handle the stuff and do it if I'm out of town or different things like that. So if we're ever really going to grow, we've got to do that. So putting policies and procedures in place to allow, as we step up and do things, it's there. So to hit on your point on regional directors, the beautiful thing that they've been doing, guys, is really getting out there, finding their venues, doing their stuff like that. You've got to find a home venue that will allow you to keep your boards there, be able to have stuff, do all those things. And then from there, the best thing that they can do to grow the brand is find their board of directors. And what I mean that is it's your group.
it's your core.
It's your core. You know what I mean? So you got to find 8 to 10 people in your region that are your core. Because if you can find 8 to 10 people that are your core, and that core hardly ever plays together, they never really play together at their own local events. If you were part of my core, I would never play with you at one of our region events. I'll play with you at another region's events. You see what I'm saying? But at our region events, if we each bring us someone else,
We'd win.
no, we now have 8 teams. But if we all play together, we only have 4 teams.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But then also, if we can start, spread it out and kind of start doing it, and you build your core up to where those people are like, hey, we're going to go grab other people to play with. But if we want to go travel to another region because you and I really want to play together, we want to win, then we go over there and play. But your core group, find your core that can help spread it. And then that's how you can
have them make the connections with you, because it's super important. As you see, Chad never is there at a SIG to win a SIG.
I see him play. I know.
Easy.
Yeah. It's obvious.
What do y'all mean by that? I'm not there to
You're
win.
having a good time.
I'm having a good time.
A really good
I'm just
time.
He's having a good time.
I'm getting to learn my opponent.
The thing is that he is there to make connections.
Oh, yeah.
So he is there to spread the word. He is there to make everybody feel welcome and excited and pour his passion into that and share it with them. And so that's the thing that regional directors need to understand as well, is that, and we support this and that with them 100%, is that they're hosting their event. They're not there to win their event. They're there to reach out. They're there to make the connections, the relationships, to make everybody feel welcome and excited to come back the next time. And so that's really the key to getting new players and getting new players to come back. Is like, oh,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
part
I
of
met Rick.
Kinfolk. And
Rick is head of
They do a
this
good
region. He's
They do a
director of
great
this
job.
region. I know him by name. He knows me by name.
yeah.
And I feel special. And I'm going to go back every single week because I have a connection. And then
Rick's there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's
Who
super
wouldn't wanna go
important.
back?
100%.
Connections.
So yeah, those are a couple of things that I would say hit on it with the regions, with the growth. Super regional is something that we really want to start growing on. Community events is another that we really want to kind of focus on next year. The new rank coming out is another big one. We want to get back to having a Ryder Cup. It'll be a little different. It's going to be more of a crew cup because it's going to be 4, but having a crew cup challenge of the clubs, and kind of you're playing
That'd
for
be
your
great.
club and kind of doing that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a meeting with Cornhole League coming up. We've been talking with Ben and Kristen over there. And, one of the things we want to do is the issue right now on crew cups is you can't do round robin. You can do single elimination brackets, different things like that, but you can't really do a round robin in crew cup and the multi-match kind of format. You can in the crew cup, but not the multi-match is what I really want to run. And so the multi-match, we got to get that, because ideally what we want to see in the multi-match challenge is the fact that you will play a regular season. So you'll go to this event and you'll play 8 multi-matches. Where you have a doubles, a singles, and a crew cup. Okay, all in the multi-match. And out of those 8 games, you get your regular season standing. Well, does everyone make the playoffs? Did everyone make the playoffs in basketball this year?
Nope.
Okay, did everyone make the playoffs in football? No.
Shouldn't be that way. either.
No.
Yeah.
So you'll play your 8 games in the multi-match, and your weekend's done if you didn't do well.
Oh, wow.
And then if you did well, you're going to go into a single elimination March Madness style multi-match playing for your champion. So now you can't just goof around in the regular season. You're going so that I have the best ranking, because I want a better seed to be able to play someone. So we're trying to work with them to kind of get that done, because we want to bring back that event, Ryder Cup style, but it'll be multi-match.
I like the March Madness type vibe.
Me too.
That's why Ryder Cup used
One
to be
and done.
It
Yeah.
was awesome.
Let's go.
It was singles. Singles was one and done. It was amazing.
So we've been talking for a minute. Is
Yeah.
there anything that you guys wanted to bring up that we didn't touch on or talk about, or
Yeah,
you want the people to know?
Yeah. No, I think that we hit on all that. The question I have for you, and the question we want to ask every
boy.
player,
Here we go.
okay? And this is, guys, please email us, call us. Give your opinions. There was a guy down in San Antonio. He plays in Deuce Dime. He had got a membership and was a little frustrated with his rank. And all this stuff. It's like, and he sent an email, like, I'm not coming back. I'm frustrated, different things like that. And I took the time, because I looked at his stats.
He actually just commented on a Facebook.
Did he?
Yeah.
And
on a Facebook post.
And so I looked him up and saw that he was a newer player, and I just we have everyone's phone number, so I just called him. And I said, "Hey, this is Chad with TCL." He goes, "Really?"
Yeah. Chad.
And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Hey, do you have 5-10 minutes? I know you're probably at work. Do you have 5-10 minutes so I could, just talk to you?" I was like,
pick your brain.
I was like, how would you do it? And that's really where some of the ideas, Guys, we want to hear the good. We want to hear the bad. We want to hear the ugly of what TCL does.
Because we're always trying to improve and meet the needs of our players and really hear their feedback. We can't do everything. We can't make all the changes, but we're trying to, for the majority, do what is best for the organization.
I've got
and
two.
for
I've got two for
players.
SIG.
Okay, but
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's
Finish
the
up,
thing. So
finish up.
what I want to challenge every player that plays, and we're going to ask you all the question, is ask yourself, if you were in charge of TCL, what would you adjust next year? Okay, not I'm frustrated with this, but how do we solve it? So come up, if you have an issue or there's something that you have, don't just say, I hate this. Okay, but how would you change it? Because then you got to think of, okay, if I change this, how's the ripple effect? What else does it affect, and do that stuff. So come up with ideas, and I'd love to. And if you have something, guys, that you're very passionate of, email us in. And then if you want to get on a call, we'll gladly get on a call with you and talk about it and see
Fabulous.
what if we can, what if we can't. Let's
Here's
do
what
it. So what is
pledge to
y'all's
you.
two?
I'll pledge to you this right now live.
Okay.
If you set this up and you get your top 10 questions,
Yep.
and you want to come back on the
I
show,
love
we
it.
can field them
Let's
right
do it.
here.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
And if you want to bring either one or two people who made the questions, we can have them in an extra seat.
Or we can
for an
dial
extra
them in.
mic, or
We can dial
we
them
can
in.
Zoom, dial them in, whatever.
Yeah.
We can do it all.
Dial them in.
Cold
Phone a friend.
call.
Phone a friend.
We'll phone a friend. Bring it in.
All right. So what would y'all do if you had the ability to be the leadership team at TCL? What would you adjust?
These two are very small, so they're not big. They're just one thing at a SIG. The time between games is so long sometimes that you do kind of feel like you're cold again. So what if you did this? What if you had a part of the facility set aside for just practice boards? you had maybe a set of 5 boards that you kind of have to get in line, you be courteous to people, but okay, these 5 boards off to the side, there's no Scorholio, there's no iPad. It's just open free boards.
Quick pickup games.
Pickup games or just to get some throws in before you're about to play. So that may be hard to legislate, but I think it would make a lot of players happy if they could just kind of stay fresh. Second thing would be over the loudspeakers, as the night gets further into it, or just throughout the day, have a loudspeaker raffle. Give away a food voucher, a beer, give away some merch, give away some bags. So keep people and have everyone there. You don't. If you've registered, you're in the hopper. It's just random, pick a name. Joe Smith, come on up here. You just won $20 of food here at Pickler Universe, or you just want a set of bags from go see the guy. Yeah. That would be keep people like involved
Engaged
in what's happening, and they may call my name. You never know.
Right.
So that plus practice boards, it's 2 small things, maybe not doable, but just consider it.
Okay, so a couple of those things as we go into that. The second one I absolutely love.
Yes.
Okay.
Love.
What if you just did it to where they registered right before the championships and you called them out during the championship so people stayed and watched? Does that make sense? So it's not really through the day. So like you do random giveaways during the championship, during that 3-4 hour deal for the people that are there kind of doing
from 9
stuff.
p.m. ish on.
Correct. But you registered. So if you had to leave for work or you mean, hey, you're going to take off, you may not register. But then it's the people that are there kind of doing that stuff, and you have to be present to win.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's
so,
a good point. Because
so
you call names out, no one shows up.
Yeah. So
let's try another one.
Let's try another one.
I think I would twist it that way, but I love that idea.
It, yeah.
And the first one you had talked about
some practice boards.
So the practice boards. I think that if you did that, you would have to do it to where you were allowed down and back 3 times, and you had to get off.
You have to cycle off.
Yeah,
right.
And get back in line again.
There could be no cash games. These are not.
You cannot monopolize these boards.
Cannot. They're not for cash games. They're not for stuff like that. And so I think that some venues you can. I think that what we need to do is we need to look at the venues that we have, and try and find a spot that can get 3-4 lanes that we haven't utilized that we could possibly do. I think there's some options.
So one thing that might help with timing is the F rank, and kind of that way your division will be slightly smaller. Because I know in E, way down in like the woods, it's
down the alphabet.
we get going pretty quickly there because it's the division or the rank is not as populated.
Well, I think something that will help on that is staggered start times.
Yes.
One thing we've considered is staggered start times, and
That's brilliant.
Scorholio is
Yes.
working on what is called shared courts. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we were hoping that it would come out this year. It still hasn't. So right now we have to assign courts for each division. Okay. And kind of doing that. Well, before we were only allowed so many courts, 16 courts per a division. So that's why you had Pool A, Pool B, Pool C, Pool D. And that was tough because you're kind of in it. At the point now, Scorholio is amazing and what they do. And so they went and got rid of the pools for us. And that changed after a couple 6 this year. You mean now everyone's all in just one deal. Well, that allows the guys at our deal, Nick and JD, to be able not to manage the pools. They can just manage the thing. But another thing they're working on now is shared courts. And if we can get shared courts, the cool thing is with staggered start times is we could literally start some divisions in the morning. B, C, and D can start at 9 in the morning. Okay. E and F may not start till 10.
Till 10, 15, whatever. Yeah.
Elite and there can doing it.
Like
but
this.
the cool thing with shared courts is they have the algorithm that all the tournaments kind of finish there. So we can backload and start a tournament and almost get 2 rounds done. And then it may slow down a little bit, but you've already played 2 of your round robin, or even the bracket play can roll out in the first round of bracket. You know what I mean? Everyone's first round game is kind of there, or we stagger start times 30 minutes where you could have a longer break and kind of doing that stuff. So there's something. And the
like that idea, Rick?
The other caveat to that we're talking about doing is investing in another 120 tablets. You know what I mean? And the idea with doing that and spending another $10,000, $12,000 on tablets, okay?
For battery purposes?
For battery purposes.
For charging?
Because right now, guys, we need the break.
Charging the
batteries and to put people in the brackets. But if we can now get rid of the charging the brackets, we could maybe have that break, because we also need to make sure that JD and Nick get fed, the whole staff.
I'll bring them food.
I don't eat. And I've actually had to put other people in charge of making sure the staff eats, because I'm like, I don't eat at 6. I eat a good meal the night before SIG, and then I don't really eat till Sunday.
The whole weekend.
The whole weekend. And I just go, and I just have to. But we're going to invest in additional tablets. So now we'd have a morning set and an afternoon set. So we'll just pull the set out, take the other set out, and they'll last all day.
That's good.
All right, so yours. What do you got?
First of all, I think having more competitive games is better for a SIG than having somebody with an 11 PPR and an 8 PPR.
100%.
So changing the PPR structure, you're going to have a lot more competitive games. It might go a little bit longer, but it's better for the player.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's wonderful. So thank you. You already nailed that one. But secondly, I love to watch, and I love to watch all lanes, but there's only announcing on one lane.
Yeah.
And if we can have people announcing on all 3 lanes, you're going to get the families more involved. You're going to have more people watching. You're going to get more hype on just cornhole itself. TCL will get a lot more exposure, because hearing the announcers and the excitement that they bring with the play that their person's playing, you're going to see a lot more. I wish we had that.
Oh,
And we've
Yeah,
talked
so
about that.
so when we touch on that,
Great idea.
real quick, Sammy and Johnny do an amazing job. You know what I mean, of what they've been able to do and different things like that. And I know Johnny is very close to taking a step back from cornhole.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the most amazing guys I've ever met inside the cornhole game. He's really cool. He actually used to write as a sports writer.
Really?
And stuff like that. And so the stories that he's written and different things like that's been really
He
cool.
is multi-talented.
And putting them together up on there was great. And I think that then we explored bringing other people up there. And the problem was that a lot of people just use it as a commercial, and it really turned the audience off.
Yeah.
You mean they'd be up there trying to just sell stuff, and it's not about selling.
Or
And
having fun, or
it-
not being engaged.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And so I think it's finding quality people like you guys. So we definitely want to extend that to you guys to start helping out at
That'd be
SIG.
great.
Thank you.
Getting a lane
great.
and then getting a couple other people, you know what I mean, of kind of doing it, because there's people doing it. And this is one thing that I'll have to get back with Sammy on, because Sammy is in charge of that.
Sideline?
Yep.
Sidelines.
Sideline Sammy, man.
Yeah.
The greatest high school football game ever. The Vernon Lions and the South Lake Carroll Dragons in 1992. 39-35 at Pennington Field. Sammy, you remember that one. But anyways,
Oh my gosh.
yep. His pops is rolling his eyes right now. But anyways,
Bundy right here.
the coolest thing is Sammy's in charge. And so I'll get with him and talk to him about it. But ultimately, it's putting the people right in charge. So we'll get with Sammy. I know he knows you guys, and get with people and kind of start doing that. But it's really, again, putting that there. But I agree with you. We need to get multiple people of doing that. It's tough to get people during round robin to come call games, because
Right.
they're also playing. But I think if we could,
But later on in the night,
later
is
on the
where it's
night
more important.
is where it's more important. But also, you know, throughout the day,
Yeah.
we've also looked at bringing in Daniel.
hour breaks.
Yep. Also looking at Daniel Swartzlander has started helping Andy a lot, and we've started adding that 4th main court,
Uh-huh.
which really helps, even especially when you go to 8 ranks, 4 divisions,
Right.
so that you have a court for every 2, you know what I mean, of kind of doing that stuff. And so mixing those up. So I know that having Daniel and Andy both up there throughout the day that are there to help run it, you know, it's something that we've invested in.
Having
doing
the
that stuff.
overhead cameras
Is really cool.
Essential.
It's awesome.
Chad,
This guy complained
I'm a
for
video-
many SIGs.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's the one critique I have of
Social media.
TCL. When I would, in years past, I
Yeah.
would see like, got to see the boards,
Right.
put
Yeah.
one over the
Right.
top, and just consider that it had so much more visual value to your content if we have a dedicated board, a camera
Yeah.
over each board. I'm sure you're aware of that.
We've been working on it with Daniel
Right.
of kind of doing that stuff,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
also adding in more cameras, more stuff. We also want to do a playback by putting some TVs on the trusses, of doing some things like that. And so it's definitely, you know, leaning on different people who have different ideas of doing that stuff.
I did have one personal
Love it.
thing, if
Love
you
it.
can help me out.
Love it.
Yeah,
I mean, you're the
absolutely.
guy.
Nah.
I may
know
never-
the guy that knows the guy.
No. know the guy.
I may never see the main stage again. Can I get on there one time? Can you just swiggle me around?
Well, see, I know the guy that knows the guy, and I've got to go talk to Nick and JD on that.
That's
You
the
mean,
guy.
Hey,
Well, you know the guy.
Hey,
They ain't gonna do
I
it.
still can't even, you know, say, hey, can
man.
I play on this different court? You mean, I know enough not to ask them.
Yeah.
I remember we were in Oklahoma City, and we were playing a tournament up there at SIG, and the venue was, low key, like old 1970s kind of building, had a big deal. And then off to the side, we had to use them, but it had low ceilings, 10 foot.
Oh, no.
But I loved it because I'm a low thrower. You know what I mean? And I get paired against Jason Andrews.
Is he a high thrower?
He's a hard thrower. And I'm like, I moved the court over to those low courts.
Got him.
He was
Got him.
so mad.
So you love hoots.
Got him. Hoots is the place to play.
But,
Hoots has got really low.
But
low
back in the day,
ceilings.
a lot of people like Eddie Grindersleeve. You know why Eddie throws so low, right?
Because he played there?
No, because him and Kenneth, when they started playing in their house where they had a low ceilings, the part in the house where they threw that had the distance, he had to learn to throw with a low throw.
Yeah.
And so, kind of doing that stuff. I've heard stories from people in their way, they only throw one direction, but they'll throw like in a doorway going down, and then that's the only way that they can throw to kind of do stuff, and it's hilarious. I love hearing stories. That is one cool thing I think would be awesome. Show us your home setup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That would be
What's
a
your
cool
practice
deal
setup?
of
Yes.
doing that stuff.
I like it.
And-
That'd be great. That'd
Yeah.
be a good. That'd be a good
Hallway.
segment.
Rick Ellis has a whole deal. He's got concrete in the backyard. He's got overhang. He's to keep the shield and the rain out. He's got lights set up. He has a cornhole court
Still not getting any
in,
better.
in his
There you
backyard.
go.
Amazing.
All right, guys, we've talked a lot.
We
This has been
have.
great.
We have.
Why don't you wrap it up, and we've been talking for a long time, but I hope you've enjoyed this. So,
Yeah.
any final thoughts from your end, Mr.
Well, I already said I love TCL. You've done a really good job. But is there anything you want all the players out there to know? You want to say the last words? Thank everybody for what they do, because we thank you for what you do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, and really, guys, it's a blessing to be able to do this. And I love it, and I love TCL. And when Laura and I first started talking, she was like, "There's no way you do cornhole every hour of every day." And it was kind of like when she was like, I can kind of help. I'm like, you're going to really see how much it is. It's a lot, guys. It's there. So anyways, I want to thank the players, first off, for coming out, kind of doing that stuff. Thank the regional directors, because without them, this would just be a group trying to throw together some big tournaments that would end up falling, without their core, without their pyramid and everything kind of going and kind of doing some stuff. So if you really love the game, go support your regional director, tell them thank you, buy them a beer when they're there, or get them something, wherever they need, of kind of helping them out. And then also, guys, spread the word. You need to go find 3 or 4 people and bring them out and force them to come check it out and see what it is, because it's really pretty cool. And don't narrow mind yourself to just there, man. Find it. One of your buddy's kids, that really wants to play, a parent, that's really kind of doing it. Some of the coolest stories, as we'll touch on this real quick, is a grandfather and his grandson. Okay.
My dad and my kid.
Yeah.
My dad's 81. My kid is 12, and no other way would they be able to spend time.
Right.
Yeah,
like they do
and
playing
so
cornhole.
stories like that are really cool, of the different connections and stuff. So thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
Thanks
Appreciate
for giving
it.
us the platform.
Last time events, that's on the screen for those at home, events at tclcornhole.com. I'll put that maybe in the show notes as well. And so thank you, Chad. Thank you, Laura. Thanks to my partner, Fire, always being here.
Fuego.
And we'll get this turned around and published as soon as possible. So,
And one last deal, guys.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think y'all need to message in to Fire and Ice right here and tell them they need to do a remote setup at a SIG, a little podcast deal, and talk about who they think during the break, so that they can't practice, guys. So now we can beat them, because we can't let them win.
Oh, my
Let's
gosh.
let them do a podcast during the break that we can all go watch while we eat and while they do it, of who they think after round robin is going to win the game. I
Good
think that would be a
idea.
great
That's
idea.
Yeah. This guy gets
do
hangry,
it.
but
Let's do
I'll do it.
I do it.
Well,
All right,
thank you, guys.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you,
God bless you
Laura.
guys.
Chad.
Okay.
Thank
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Tell them we ain't taking